Good afternoon, this is Bob Wolpert. Today we're going to show an abbreviated version of installing the KX3-2M 2-meter transverter module in the KX3. Let's get started. I'm assuming you've already have done your inventory. Everyone always does an inventory, right? First thing we have to do is open up the KX3, remove the batteries, separate the control panel from the remainder of the unit so we have room to work. We have to disconnect the antenna tuner, pull the board out, place it on a static safe surface. The next thing we have to do is remove the plug on the SMA connector. The best way to do that is to find the ears on the connector, squeeze them with long nose pliers, and work it out. Now, we install the 2-meter SMA antenna connector. The washer goes through first. We identify the flat. We push it through. As so. We move this inductor, L43, down gently so that it's not touching the brass of the connector nor L45. We want it in the middle there. If your connector is a little bit fussy getting through the D hole in the lower chassis, you may want to use a small blade and scrape away some paint. Using your fingers, get the nut started, and once it's started, gently use long nose pliers and tighten it up. Now that the nut is tight, we need to reinstall the antenna tuner, making sure both of these connectors are lined up and the holes line up with the standoffs underneath. Now take hardware, round standoff, and lock washer, split lock washer, tighten it up finger tight. These are aluminum. If you tighten them too tight, they'll shear off right there, they'll be stuck in there, and you'll be down a radio. So please be careful. Make sure that the lock washer avoids this trace. There's a trace that comes along the outside of the perimeter of this hole. You don't want the lock washer sitting on it because there is a slight chance that when you tighten it from above, you will end up shearing the trace. So very gently make sure that doesn't happen. This is not holding up large amounts of equipment, so that it's quite acceptable to just tighten it like that. Okay, the antenna tuner is back in place. We need to deal with the local oscillator, the LO cable. The LO cable uses a UMC connector, and it attaches to J4, which is right there. A little bit tricky to get to this. I've done this a couple times now, and I've found that the best way to do it is to make this more or less horizontal, place it as close as you can to the hole, and snap. You'll hear a small snap as it presses into place. I've been able to do it with my fingers, but it's a lot easier to use the backside of a plastic pen. Pencil eraser may work if the eraser's nice and new and clean. Obviously don't use it if it's all gummed up. And you don't want to use the graphite side of the pencil because you don't want graphite floating around inside your radio. Remove the transverter from the bag. The top side, PA transistor, and the bottom side. These are the two connectors, the 2-pin connector here, and the larger connector here. The LO cable plugs in here, and the antenna cable plugs in here. I start with the LO cable because the LO cable is longer, gives you a little more room to work. You're not tethered as tightly as you would be if you connected the antenna cable first. Notice on the back side of the connectors there are no components. We can use this to our advantage by making a little workbench using a pencil or something similar, and position these little connectors, snap it into place. Same thing with the antenna connector. Here we have the shield there, so we want to come up a little bit, not quite as tight as we would before, and we don't have quite as much room for work here. But now that we've done this twice before, we're already pros at it, so we know how the UMC connector is attached. Now, it's very critical to route the antenna cable properly. We don't want it on L8. If it sits on L8, you will harm performance of the antenna tuner on the HF bands. So rotate the cable so it's in between L7 and L8. The PA transistor fits through this notch. It's going to be tightened down through that screw. Connector, connector, screw, screw. So this connector's lined up. This connector's lined up. The cable is turned around. Push it a little bit flat. Seat the board firmly. Next, we will tighten the transverter down. I found that lock washers are not necessary here, so let's do without. These are stainless screws, they're non-magnetic, so be careful when you drop them, as I just did. Second screw, no lock washer. And you don't have to kill it, it's not holding up much weight. Next, the shield. And the shield installs with this notch. Hope you can see that. One side is flat, the other side has a notch. The notch fits through the leads of the TO220 PA transistor and snaps into place like that. We'll dress this wire. The yellow cable is not critical. What we want to do is make sure we push it down out of the way so that it doesn't get into the hinge where we're trying to change batteries. We don't want it to pop up and get in the way. So just push it down and keep it out of the way. If you have your roofing filter, now's a good time to put it back in. Okay, with this done, a crucial part of this operation is to fasten down the PA transistor. This is how we get the heat. This is the heat sinking for the PA transistor. If we forget that, your module is not going to last very long. The PA should be attached snugly. You don't have to kill it, but it has to make very good contact. Seat it all the way. The bottom hole is not used. Okay. That completes the assembly of the KX3-2M in your KX3. Now we put the KX3 back together. Again, if we took out the roofing filter, that should be put back in. And the front panel, the battery cable, needs to be reattached. Check that the LO cable is not going to be pinched. Same with the antenna cable. Carefully put it back together. Okay, once everything's buttoned up properly, it's now time to do the final firmware configuration. So turn on your KX3, and we'll go into the menu. First setting we need to confirm is that the 2-meter module is in the normal position. It's probably as good a time as any to make sure that FM mode is also enabled. FM mode on. And now we need to go through the transverter settings. Transverter 1 should be on. In order to set this, we push and hold rate until the lock icon disappears and turn it from no to yes. Go to the next. Transverter 1 RF, 144. Transverter 1 IF, it defaults to 28. We need to change that from 28 to 50. We have to change the power, 3 watts, high 3, as shown. The offset we'll deal with later if necessary. And the Transverter 1 address, we have to make sure that it says internal transverter 0. It defaults to transverter 1, so we turn the knob several places to internal transverter 0. Exit the menu, and we're ready to go. Have fun with your new transverter.